Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Streaming Alchemy. I'm John Mahoney, and as you can tell, we're in our new set here, our new YouTube studio for 2025. And on today's show, I'm going to do a fairly detailed overview of everything we did, how this all got set up, some of the thinking behind how we did lighting, and just a quick touch on how we have our normal setup here for our productions. But before we do that, I welcome everybody. If you want to join us here live, there's a link in the show notes and here on screen. And if you'd like to join us, somebody here from the studio can get you on air with us. So it is good to be back, our first show of 2025. This is also going to sort of wrap up season 4. So we expect that, probably our next show will be the start of season 5, and we'll get a few things kicked off there as well. But before we dig into what we did, let me just get over to the people who've left some comments. You guys are always great with interacting. So Michael, thank you. Yes, there is some Dante in here. Not a huge amount. I mean, we only have sort of myself here, but there is a bit of Dante that we can go over here. So definitely something we will get to. Let's see. Oh, you demand. How are you? Yeah. So just hopefully this is something you'll find interesting. Thank you for joining. Steve, thank you for joining us from Little Rock, Arkansas. Always good to have you here. Oh, William, thank you. Happy 2025 to you and to everyone here as well. So thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to really start off with, or sort of give you a framework for how I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go over through first the actual physical build, everything we did here for the set construction, sort of give you sort of a full from how we tore it down, what we were doing, in terms of our goals. And then we'll go to the full assembly. From there, we'll jump into lighting and how we did everything with lighting. And then we'll get into how some of the stuff is actually set up here on the set. To give you an idea of how things are hooked together, the cameras, the audio, and such. So that will give you a clearer picture. And then we can wrap it up with some test shots that we took, so you get a different sense of some of the visuals that the studio has besides this one sort of fixed lockdown shot here. So let me get started with taking a look at, we'll start sort of with what was the old studio. So as a reminder point. And so this is what we had, and this is sort of a behind the scenes picture. So you're seeing sort of a shot over the desk. And you can see that if you look at the way physically this was set up, we had a flat back with the mural, and we've kept the mural wall over here on the side. So a flat back with that mural wall with the TriCaster control surface. Then out of that, we had on the left side of this picture, it was an angled wall. So we had this coming in at just about a 45-degree angle, and then a straight coming out from there. And on the opposite side, we had another angle, slightly less steep, and another straight piece coming out. And well, this visually looked okay. And, we were able to make it really usable because we had a very shallow depth of field with the way we had our last camera setup done. So that created sort of a soft blur, and it just sort of fit in the background, and that worked. But what we were losing were what those angles did to us. When we had those angles, we were losing all that space because that was no longer now part of the set. And so if we wanted to, for instance, set up a green screen, we're really working around those two angled sides to try to get any of that to happen. So the goal was that we could make this space, and it's not a huge space here that we have, make this space more usable in a variety of situations. This would be everything from doing our live shows here like we do. If we did any pre-recorded, if we wanted to do green screen work, if we do product reviews, we've done some, pre-recorded product videos, and anything we want to do for Gnural Net and everything we have going on there. We just wanted a little more flexibility. So we decided the right thing to do would be to square off the set, sort of make it more of a rectangle, which was really how we started. It was just a smaller set. And then we sort of rebuild from there. So the original diagram for what we had was this. What we wanted to do was create sort of a back wall with sort of a recessed middle, the two which are acoustic slat panels on the sides, the shelf under a monitor in that center location, and then we'd have the two walls coming out from there. And so this was sort of the initial visualization for what we wanted to do with that. And this is sort of was the first guide for how we wanted to put this set together. And so to get started, we started to tear apart the old set. And probably the most important thing to keep in mind when you think of building a set is that you can build a set that's physically part of your room. You're using the room itself. We wanted the flexibility to change and to be able to switch things around. So what we ended up using was what would basically be called sort of movie flats, which are basically a frame that you then put a skin on top of, and you can join these frames together in any sort of shape you want to create rooms or spaces that can be used in a set. So one side of them is basically a sort of a finished surface that looks like a normal wall, but the other side is just very lightweight framing that you can easily move around. And so what we started to do was basically disassemble the flats that we had. And this was the space then that we were working in. So the space itself, sort of side to side, gives us about 16 to 17 feet widthwise. And we have about 10 feet until we have some columns. So we have two columns on each side here that this desk sort of just slides between that I'm at here. So we're dealing with a fairly constrained space, but this is basically what we were going to rebuild against. And as I mentioned, this is what a flat basically is. It's a very lightweight frame that you can then put a skin over. So in this case, we had a couple of walls that we put up over here on this side for us that are just sheetrock on these frames. So just a flat plain wall that we have set up. And you can see that we took the brick face off of some of these flats that we had and are just reskinning them now with the sheetrock. So that gave us sort of a different frame now for that. And then, once we had that, we just, we're basically going to use a few things that were in the set. So in the old set, if you remember, we had these, they were originally designed as light boxes. So this is, but we never could get enough light to show through on camera. So they ended up just becoming sort of this plastic with a metal frame boxes that sat on the side. And we didn't really want to use it. That just, added extra space and clutter, visual clutter that we didn't need. So we were keeping this, and this is our back wall over here. And that was the part that was on the slant with the monitor. So we took that, and that was we're going to reuse that here. And we then, just sort of take all the stuff off of it. And as we went through this, this is sort of, as I said, this is the space we're working with. We disassembled the walls and took that. So these are the two things we reused here in the set. We reused the mural wall, and we reused this back monitor wall, which we had these flats that we set up. So this is just to prove I was there. So yes, I did some of the work for getting this set together. But here it is now. We're starting to put everything. So we moved all the equipment out, had that cordoned off. You can see in the background here is where we had those light boxes for the side that we were going to get rid of. And then this is now sort of the reassembled middle portion for the monitor that is now painted the gray that it is now, and a couple of extra panels that we used just on the walls to sort of extend the set a little bit and to anchor it. But so these were just some of the things that we were pulling together. You can see this is just a normal room we're in here. And that was what we had for that. And so this is it now. Then we started to do the assembly for all of this. So before I get into the assembly, I think we have a few more comments here. So let me just jump in. I want to make sure we get to everybody. So let's see. We have, let's see. Okay, so PARZ TV from Argentina. PARZ, thank you for joining us. So always good to have you here. So thanks for taking the time. And Josh, yes, the elliptical is used as a power generator in case of power loss. It is. I don't think I would certainly have enough stamina to do that, but it's there sort of as a general thing for people here. So if you feel like you need to stretch and think and get a little workout, it's there for everybody here for the Gnural Net side of things. So thank you for noticing. All right, so let's get back. So now we're starting to assemble things. We have these flats built, and so we came here, and this is the TV flat, and since that's right behind me here, what's here in the center, we are putting this together. And so this now is basically that same flat you saw with two side panels that I have that let me now to push this back. So where we used to have the light boxes and that sort of provided that, this is our replacement for that. So they're just sort of 3/4 inch wood siding that we put there. And we then started to assemble that with the acoustic panels on the side. And in this picture you can see here is Matt, my son. He also does the programming lead at Gnural Net, so he handles most of our product stuff as well. So he's just helping, get these acoustic panels in place. Now, these slatted walls are thin wood slats, so they're like an inch and a quarter or an inch and a half wood slats. And behind them, they are all attached to what's called PET felt, which is basically this meshed felt that has sound absorption. And because we're putting this now on an open frame, we are creating something that's very nice acoustically for us. You have the panels, the slats, which break sound waves up. You have the felt, which can absorb sound waves that pass through. And then because this is on a frame with space behind it to a wall, you now have sort of an air gap, which then when these things reflect back, that panel can sort of absorb them, that felt panel can absorb them again, and it creates a noticeable deadening of reflections in this space. So that's really, really helpful for the acoustics. And not only that, but we think it adds a modern touch to the overall set. And you can see now we're starting to build out the depth. So we have the panel, then we have the inset, then we have the monitor. And, that goes across where we have, both panels now sort of up. And you can see as we're starting to pull all this together, how that's happening. And this is just going across the rear of the set here. But these are all just flats that we have. And so now as we start to attach the walls, you can see how this would just all come together. These are joined by something that's called a corner brace or whale tail. There's a couple of different terms for it, which is just a floor to ceiling L bracket that we are able to bolt both the side wall and the back wall into. So that sort of creates some structural integrity around what we're doing with the rear and the side panels. And you see we, are assembling the sheetrock wall on the other side. So that's sort of my left side over here. And as we put that together, then, get that all painted, and now you can start to see the set taking form here. And this is part of what we wanted. We're now, because these are squared off, the corners, and it's a rectangle instead of these angular spaces, we now could set up shots that go across the set here. And we wanted that. So this gives us a couple more things. You can shoot to a corner, you can shoot square on. And so this is part of what we wanted, that ability to get a few more angles and have a few more possibilities for how we leverage the space in the set. So that's just another shot there. And you can see we got all the tools and everything we're working with here. This is not a fancy shot, but this is, I wanted to talk a little bit when we talk about flats. Now you can see how this looks from outside the set. So this is the wall that's running along here. So we have a ridge coming out. Then we have these flats that are joined together. This is behind the wall, behind me. So this is the side acoustic panel. You can see there. So you have the air gap, and that's the felt that you can see running up and down the side of that panel there. And this now, not only does it, that air gap give you the ability to get behind, I could change any wiring or run things from one side of the set to the other outside of the set if I needed to. But it also gives some storage back there. So I can stick, stands. We have a lot of C-stands and other types of lighting and camera gear that are all sitting back there as well. So this is the other side. This is the side over here beside the mural wall. So you can see there, we have some clamps that we keep there that we can use for things. But this gives us that sense of these flats that we just assembled and bolted together. So that's really how we did everything with assembling the total set to get what we wanted here. And I want to emphasize that you could do this if you had a space, a physical space that you wanted to modify. You could do this and get that same sort of setup in place. But we chose flats because we felt like now it gave us the ability to sort of redesign the set, reuse some of the stuff that we had from the previous set, but still not really be cutting into anything on the walls themselves or in this space. So if we wanted to disassemble this, move it, change it around, we could do that in the future. So that was really the physical assembly of the new set here. And probably though what adds the character to the set and is can't be overstated how important it is the lighting that we had. So what I'm going to do is let me just jump back to that first shot that I had of our old set, and you'll get a sense of some of the challenges that we had with lighting. So we have multiple monitors in set. So we always had to work around keeping the lighting off the monitors. So we were always, playing with positioning and everything else. We didn't really have true pro lights. We had, some barn doors and other stuff that could block light. But most of this stuff was just a mix of different lighting kits that we had. So up here is I believe it's a newer light with a Fovertech soft box on it that was giving us a wash of light. On the desk itself, so what we had here originally were Elgato lights that we had there that we were controlling through the Elgato app. In the back here, we had some GVM color lights that were giving us the wash on the back wall of the set. And we had a few other lights. There's a light that sort of sat in front of the desk to do some, general illumination that we had there. So there was just a lot of different lights from a lot of different vendors. Some were controllable by a app. Others were just switch on and adjust and set. So one of the things we wanted to do was to go through and create a single lighting framework using a single vendor. So to do that, we decided to go with Aperture Amaran. So we had some of this gear already, and then we just had to fill in with a few more pieces that we wanted. So that was good. But, this was stuff that, we had been planning on using for this. So I'm going to go through and talk about everything that we have lighting-wise here. And I'm going to start with the two most important lights in a setup, which are our key light, which is over here, and the fill light, which I have sort of sitting over here. So for both the key and the fill light, we're using the Amaran 100D cob lights. These are not terribly expensive lights. I think these lights are like $200 each. And these are just daylight 100-watt lights. And the cob light is basically, it's like you take all the mini LEDs and you put them on a single board. So it's chip on board is basically what it means. So the LED chips are all put together in proximity on a single board. And that creates a very strong light from a single source. And the way we have this for our key light is we're using a Light Dome Mini 3. Now, the reason we're using the Mini 3, this would not have been my first choice. As I mentioned, we have poles that sit on each side of the desk here. The Mini 3 is just under 2 feet in size. So it can fit in a fairly constrained space. What I would probably have done is I would have gone, if I didn't have these poles here, with the Light Dome 3, which is about a 3-foot light. And the thinking, anytime you think of sizing a light, is that the bigger the light, the softer you can make it. So you could push it a little further, or move it a little closer to create more of a wash. But the larger light will create a softer light, so it will be a little more flattering. So that was sort of thinking. But the Mini 3 is, does an excellent job, fits perfectly in the space we're in. And because I mentioned we have monitors and other things, we're using an 8-crate in front of it, as well as a diffusion fabric. And so that gives me a very focused light, so it's not spilling out and sort of splashing onto monitors or anything else. So that was one of the big pluses there. And what we wanted to do for the fill light, which we have sort of coming in from this direction, is we used what's called a light box. So this is the light box 3020. So it's 30 centimeters by 120 centimeters. So it's about like 1 foot by 3 foot, give or take. 4 foot, a little more than a little under that, but that gives you the rough sense. And the way we have this set up, let me see if I can sort of explain this. This is higher up, which is not, I probably have had it a little lower, but we have it there, and we have it horizontally, not vertically. So we wanted that thing to run across as opposed to up and down. And this creates more of light flow around me. So you can sort of see how this is, as I move my hand, you can sort of see the shadow move there. So this gives me more of a fill across more of my headspace here. And that was really the goal of this. So if you look at how this is set up, so this is the light that I have sitting right over here, and this is the light that's sitting there, sort of angled and from above. And if you look at this, these grids that you see, these are the egg crates that we have in here, and those are set up so that that light spill doesn't happen. So even though I have this light here, it's not spilling light over onto a monitor that I have over here. And so you can get a sense for how these two primary lights in the set are put together. So this is just a Mini 3. This is the 3120 light box. So that's what we have set up here. And this isn't sponsored by Amaran. This is our stuff. We just bought it, and this is all set for the set. So what we have next is I wanted a sort of a hair light, something that could light a bit from the side. I recognize that there's not much I can do with my hair at this point. It's doing its own thing and, turning gray and falling out and all the other things that happen. But I figured at least the light will give it a little separation from the background here. And for that, we're using a PT1C, which is a tube light from Amaran. And again, just to give you a sense, these lights here were like $200 a light. This light here is like $70. So these are, the Amaran lights are sort of in that affordable category of light. Because if, for the aperture versions of these, like the Infinibar, you'd be paying $800 or something. So they are more expensive than these. So these are an excellent sort of value light and very good light quality. And so this is just set up here on the side. So right over here, farther to the back, and it just shines enough of a light coming at the back of my head and my shoulder to give a little extra illumination, a little extra separation. So we still need to get an egg carton, a grid for this that will stop the light from spilling, because this light does spill out on things right now. So that's sort of in the works to get that taken care of. But that gives me that additional sort of light separation, a little more definition of sort of the back and shoulder, which is, from a lighting point of view, can make the person that it being illuminated stand out a bit more. And the final two lights that we have are the lights that are washing the back of the set. So let's see if I could jump to the full screen here so you would see. You can see that I have on this side, I have a red light that's going back there and a blue light that's coming in over here. So these bulbs here, which are the Aperture B7C bulbs, these are the bulbs that are handling that. And talk a little bit about these, because they're pretty special. And these are the Aperture lights that we have in this set. So these are pretty impressive. We just have them in little holders on light stands sitting in the back. So very, very simple on-off switch if I want. But I don't need that because they can all be controlled. So I can leave everything turned on and I can just control them all through an application. So these are just what these lights look like. But one of the really, really cool things about these lights are that they have batteries built into them too. So I could actually take and screw this light into an inert socket, because I talked about you build flats and everything else here to create this. I could just take and put a fixture up on the wall. These lights will charge up. I could probably get 2 hours plus out of a charge. I could just screw one of these bulbs, the B7Cs, into that and just control it like a light, even though it's just a unwired fixture that sort of set as a prop. So it gives you a huge amount of flexibility, and the light quality from them is absolutely awesome. You can get true like reds, oranges, yellows, colors that with lower end LED lights I was just never able to get. You always sort of got a blue or a purplish color, or a red or a purplish color, but those subtle shades in between, you really couldn't get. Here you can get them spot on. And not only do these lights in the back, not only are the LEDs, so you have full color LEDs, but you can also change the color temperature. So this gives me, sort of a range of lighting options for these. So if I didn't want to do this as colored backlights, I could have done them as warmer backlights. So these are daylight lights in the front for the key and the fill. Those could have been, slightly warmer, which would have added more of a yellow, warmer look to the back of the set. So, this is the other piece to how we have this set up. But, definitely impressed by what they have there. And finally, the last light we have is an Amaran SM5C, which is a color LED strip. And if we sort of switch back to the full shot again, what you can see is the illumination across the top, where you see the little color chart and the slate that we have, the little American flag. That's being illuminated by that LCD strip across the top. And we have this light even set a little cooler than we have the standard daylight lights. That's to give a little bit of that blue look to that. But it just illuminates a bit of the top here. So you can see this dark patch in the middle between the wall lights that we have and the strip light across the top. And so if we jump back in, this strip light is basically in an angled track that we have going across the entire back of the set. And so that's just shining down at a 45-degree angle on the rear of the set. And that creates that lighting for us. So in total, we are using the 2 lights up in the front, the 1 light for the hair light or rim light, however you call it, the 2 lights for the wall, the B7Cs, and the SM5 as a light strip all the way across the back for giving that sort of upper wash to the back wall and illuminating what's on the shelf up there. So that's what we have for all of our lighting here. And though I don't have like slides set up because we are, doing more for this, we are able to control all of these lights through an app called Sidus Link from Aperture. And the thing we like about the Sidus Link is not only can I set everything up as colors and everything else to do this, and that's incredibly powerful there, but I can also set things up as scenes. And we mentioned one of the goals that we have here is that we can reuse the set for multiple things. So if I'm doing things for Gnural Net, or I'm doing specific product videos for companies, or we're doing anything for other live shows, I have the ability to create different lighting setups for those shows, and then just record them as individual scenes. And because all the lights would work with that, we then have a little more flexibility for how we can do that. I have a lot more to do with getting this lighting completely dialed in. We want the back to be a little bit brighter than it is, so we're working on a few things to get that set up. But that's really the goal now, is to use a single vendor's lighting ecosystem. And in this case, we chose sort of the Amaran Aperture setup, and then to leverage all the automation that we can around what they offer. And I just have to say, one of the other cool things is just an aside on the lighting that I thought was really impressive. In the Sidus Link app, what I can do is I could point that runs on my iPhone. I could point my iPhone camera at a specific color, and it will pick that color and turn the lights that you're trying to set that color. So it lets you dial things in very, very specifically for different types of setups here. So I'm going to sort of do a wrap on what we did with lighting here. And before we jump into sort of talking about what else we have on set, I think we may have a few more comments here. So let's get to that. So William, thank you. I do appreciate that. There was a lot of thought and a lot of sweat equity, as they say, that went into getting this together. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So Michael's asking, did I consider mounting the lights in the ceiling or walls instead to get more space on the floor? So I have thought of that. So we don't have a lot of ceiling height. I mean, in this space that we have the set in, the ceiling height is about like 7'9", give or take. So there's not a lot of height off camera. And if I'm standing, I'm just over 6 feet, and my son Matt is like 6'5", so I don't have a lot of hang things down space. So we're sort of working within that, but that is something that we're trying to create. We're trying to take up as little floor space as possible, and anything that is on the floor, we're trying to have it all on wheels, so everything can be fairly mobile and give us the ability to shift. The small lights in the back over here that are there, they are on very sort of low light stands, very easy to pick up and move anywhere. And the one light over here, that is the hair light. That's actually on another stand that I can just pick. And that also has batteries in it, so I could set it up and move it all battery power without any cords. So we are trying to be very conservative with that. But yeah, if I could pick my space where I wanted to set everything up, And we've all talked about this internally. If we were to, build a set in a new space, we definitely want higher ceilings so that we could mount everything up. Because I agree, anything we could do to free up all the floor space would be ideal. So thanks. That's a very good point. So, Bill, thank you. I'm glad you find this useful. So hopefully, if you have any other questions or specific things about what we do, I'm not necessarily going to cover all the details. So just, jump in and ask. Happy to share anything I can about how we have things set up here. So, Warren, thank you for that. We think that unless you have a physical need to buy like heavier pro gear, the biggest, if you have quality light that's coming from your lighting gear, you can end up saving a lot of money without compromising the on-screen look. So I think like some of the stuff that Aperture makes, they have equivalent lights for all of these, but those things are made to be packed around, shipped, to different venues, set up, torn down, and all this stuff. In the set, we're not going to do a lot of that. So we are really looking at this as we could use things that have more plastic in the build, as long as the quality that we get out of that is there. And I think the Amaran line is phenomenal for that. They really are that Aperture quality, at least, not 100%, but very, very close, certainly in the aspects that would matter for what most of us do. But, at a price that's really affordable and designed for more like in-house use cases. And so I think that's a good way to put it. But yeah, thank you, William. I appreciate that. Bill Corky is saying, very cool or warm, whatever you want, I guess. So yes. So, well, these lights here, we don't have much choice. These are going to be daylight, so they're going to be cooler. We have choices with everything else in the back, though, for how we want to set that up. So thanks, Bill. Steve, so he says he likes my earphones. I can't find them. Where can I get them? So the earphones that I have there, I'm not exactly sure the model for them. They're just I think they're just Shure earphones. So not expensive, relatively, probably like $100 earphones that we have. And they're just, I'll sort of talk about how in our next piece, how we have all this set up. But, they just work pretty well. They have, I can drop the wire around the back of the head and just have it go down my back and off to the side. So all that stuff works. But yeah, I'll post that after to, give you the specific model number. I'm not even sure if they make them anymore. They do change them pretty frequently. So Michael's saying, cool work over the new lights. If you should compare the light quality of Amaran to Zelgato, how do you see that? I think that the Elgato lights that we had were just sort of white lights. We had them sort of set as daylight. And the way the Elgato lights were set up is, as opposed to the light pointing outward, what they had is an LED strip that was on the inside of a case, which had a reflective back. And then in front of that, it had a translucent sort of frosted white plate. So that gave you sort of the diffusion double, so it was a small light. So you had sort of just this ring of LED lights around it, reflecting and then going through a diffuser. So they were, for what you were, their convenience, sort of their setup, they worked well. But I just felt that the quality of light that I was getting from the Amaran was slightly higher, more consistent with sort of the reported, because they should be 5,600 Kelvin, and they ended up being very close based on all the comparisons that we we're able to go through. So they seem to be sort of a better quality light, but more importantly for what we did here, they have on the front what's called a Bowens mount, Bowens. And what a Bowens mount does, it lets you put those diffusers that you've seen that we talked about, you know, the Mini 3 and the 3120 box diffuser. It allows us to put those onto the lights and then control everything with like putting the light grid up. I can put different levels of diffusion fabric in front of them. So if I wanted to step the light down, you know, another half stop or something, I could do that. And that would, you know, give me a little more flexibility. The thing about the Elgato lights, and again, we used them for a long time and they worked really well for us, is that each one of those lights, I think the Elgato key light, each one of those lights is still like $150. So they are not inexpensive lights. And, you know, with that in mind, I would look at this and say, if you're going to go into that price point, you know, these were like $200 lights, and then, you know, I think like $100 for the, diffuser, Bowens mount diffuser for both of these. So they are fairly more expensive, but not ridiculously more, and certainly far more flexible. There's a lot of different attachments, a lot of different ways I can use these lights. And I think that's the important thing. So one of the things, since you brought this up about the comparison, one of the things the Bowens mounts is going to give us is the ability to put these different types of diffusion attachments on the lights. And if you remember, the fill light that we have over here is a long box light. So we could put a second one of those and use these to light a green screen, which gives you now like a 4-foot light source coming on both sides, which we can do a nice even lighting of the screen. So you can use these, even though I'm using them in this case, I couldn't do that with the Elgato. So we get not just what I think is a high quality initial use case, but then for other things we may want to do, there's a lot more flexibility. So that's part of the thought process we had with making these choices. So yeah, and there are a lot of modifiers for them. So not only could you do these diffusers, you can do these little snoots, which is very fine light. You can put things called gobos on them, where you can put these cut templates to like put like a window glow or blinds glow if you wanted that against the wall. So you can create these pattern things. So yeah, a lot of different cool things you can do with the Bowens mount. So thanks, Michael. So yeah, I mean, Josh, thanks. These I think they're something like that. They're one of the Shure SE lines. So yeah, they'll be about $100 for the earpieces here. So thanks, Josh. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about some of the other gear we have here, and I'm just gonna sort of talk about this as some of the stuff we have on set. And I'm going to start with talking a bit about the desk here. So the desk we have here it's a thick butcher block top with metal piping frames. So the desk is about 6 feet wide. And you can see with the number of monitors we're working here, it's about 6 feet wide and just over 3 feet deep, like 3 feet 3 inches deep. And it's also on wheels. It's on these 4-inch casters, so I can slide it around and do what I want with it. So this is the main desk in the studio. But just remember, so I have these monitors here. If you look at here, I have the 3 monitors you see right in the center and in front, and I have the 1 monitor, which is right over. Oh, I'm trying to point to the right area here, right over this way. Get it here, one of these. So this is this monitor over here is on a totally separate computer. The monitor I have over here, along with the 3, so there's 4 monitors on a second computer. This is what I do everything sort of when I do demos and shows. And for most of the time, this is where I'll keep my comments monitor over here. I have my 2 working monitors here, and I have a monitor in the front, which is a confidence monitor that also feeds a teleprompter when I need to, do anything on script. So I'll come back to that in a minute, but just sort of keep this general layout in mind. So over here on this side, I have a second small desk. This is about 4 feet by 2 feet in depth. We use this for anything we want to do when we usually do product videos. If we're doing a product overview or something, we'll set things up on that so we can do product shots. If we needed to, we could stand behind it. So if you sort of look at this, this is another type of shot that we can actually set up now in here, where we can do anything we want with this side desk. And one of the points I just want to make is we chose the paint that we set up for this. If I were to shine a colored light onto this paint, the gray and the fact it's sort of a matte color, it would pick up that light and make the paint look that color. So in terms of doing product shots, beauty shots, anything we want, potentially even doing things like thumbnails or other stuff, you could actually take and create a color wash on that wall, and that would pick up that color and really give you a strong new look with these different colors. So that was part of it. And having that desk there now gives me the ability to take and create another shooting angle. I can be in front of it to do camera work and do product shots, or I could be behind it to be on camera with sort of lighting behind me and use that for, if I needed a laptop or something else. So another way, another use case for how we have this set up in the studio. And that's the second desk. But so if we come back, though, I mentioned that I have the monitors that are on the desk. So we have sort of the 5 monitors. This is our main computer that we do most of our demos and other things from. So this is a bit of a beast of a computer here. It is a Threadripper. It's a 32-core Threadripper, 32-core, 64 thread. It has 64 gig of memory. It has an RTX A4000 graphics card in it. So this system can do an awful lot. And that is driving 4 of the monitors that we have here. And, that works really, really well for us. The other computer that we have sort of over on this side, this is what we use if we need a second system to do certain demos, if there's sort of a product thing that we have to do. I also use this computer to connect to remote systems. So if I needed to do something here on AWS where I wanted to show something, or I'm going to a remote TriCaster across the network, I would do that off of this system here. So this is it's a 12-core system, so it's not a lightweight system, but not anywhere near as powerful as our main system here. And this is what we would basically drive all our secondary stuff. And it also is used to power signage. The vertical monitor on screen, we use OBS on there to sort of power that vertical signage that we use on that other monitor you saw on the side. So that's what we have sort of with this immediate desk space as well. So the next thing is the camera that we have. And so our main camera that we do all these shows with and we use for a lot of our product filming and other stuff is a Sony FX30. So this is an APS-C sensor. So the FX3, which is also in the cinema line, but the FX3 is the full frame. This is the APS-C size sensor. So we're using this with a Sigma 18 to 50 f 2.8 lens. So that gives us, a lot of flexibility. It's a constant aperture, so we don't have issues based on how we frame anything, but it gives us a lot of flexibility. And this was different from the lens we were using for the previous set. On that set, we're using the same main camera, but we were using a Sigma Prime 30 millimeter f 1.4. So that gave us that shallower depth of field and just a fixed frame that we use for all of our shots. So this again, because it's a zoom lens, slightly higher aperture, but that's something we felt with the new backdrop and how we're doing that, we didn't need the same short depth of field in order to, get really good usable shots out of this without a lot of distraction. So that's what we have as our main camera. Our main microphone is a Shure MV7, so it's not the general SM7Bs that all the cool kid podcasters have. This is we thought this had great sound for the price, and it also worked really well for what we wanted to do. And now I think it was Michael had mentioned about Dante and posted a comment about that. The way we're using the audio from the set here is that this mic is going into our main computer via USB. So that's one of these cables that we have coming out here in the back. And it goes into the main computer, and from there it is fed out as a Dante thing. We have Dante virtual sound card on this computer. And so we take that and feed it out as a Dante signal that then goes into the studio, to a Dante mixer, and that gets actually mixed out and based on whatever switcher set we're using, and it will, it'll mix that in. And because this mic also has a audio return, a microphone return, we use Dante coming back in, and then we will take and convert Dante into a return audio feed for this mic, which I then can pick up and hear. So that lets me hear, the intros and anything there. It lets me hear talkback, so if Joe, who does our switching, if he wanted to tell me anything, he could let me know that. So that's all coming in. So this mic doesn't just work well for, sound quality, which I think for spoken voice, I think it's great, but it also integrates well for the stuff we want to do with Dante. And that lets all our audio work, completely IP based. So once it leaves here, it's all digital, and that works really well for us. And we're really happy with it. We have another one we use for conferences and other things that we really like. So definitely happy with this mic. So we have two other cameras that we sort of have permanently set up. This is a PTZ Optics Move 4K. We've been doing a lot of work with this camera recently. It has an interesting feature called 3D, which means that when you zoom or pan or do other things, it actually sends out information about what that zoom and pan details are that you can then use to track things in virtual sets or for augmented reality. So we've been doing some work with that. Maybe we'll get some shows integrated on that. But really, it's a good quality camera image with great functionality baked into that. So hopefully we'll be able to show you some cool stuff with this. But that's the Move 4K. And then we just have over here is a small sort of a webcam style camera that's also NDI. So I think it's the CuddleCam HD NDI is the name of this. But this works really well as sort of a general. I just need a very wide angle shot of things. So we've used this more for return video for things we do with product shots, and when we need to have an operator video feed into a product or something, we tend to use that camera. So those are the three cameras, but everything in the studio. So the FX30 is feeding into a BirdDog Flex via HDMI, which then does an NDI signal out. The Move 4K has NDI HX built in, and the HuddleCam HD also has NDI HX built in. So all of our video is NDI digital, and all of our audio is Dante digital. And that means that we can move between different downstream tools to leverage this stuff. So if I want to do things with compositing, say take multiple camera shots and put them together, I could actually do that because all this is digital. So I could have another system I'm using, or the second system that I mentioned over here. I could do compositing on that in OBS and feed that back into my main system. It also means that I can use either the TriCaster or vMix to switch the shows. So if we, the TriCaster has been something we've used an awful lot for many, many of our shows. And that's set up because all this comes in NDI and Dante. I can just pull them up there. Or we can go in and I can use it all in vMix. And that means that I don't have to sort of commit to using one particular system or one particular tool in general to leverage everything we have going on here coming from the set, all the cameras and all the mics. And that's sort of been our philosophy. Make everything as digital as possible for everything we want to do. And this is all going through a Netgear 4500 switch, 4250 switch. So that gives you a lot of flexibility there. And it's well suited for Dante, well suited for NDI as well as general traffic. And we do have 10 gig uplinks because for everything we do here locally and the main feeds back from here are all 10 gig. Makes life easier, so we're not worried about sort of squeezing into a 1 gig with any of the feeds we have. So that's a big piece for how we have everything set up here. And, in the back, we just have sort of the last thing is that shelving unit that we put. Everything else had sort of the sort of wood look with piping. We did the same thing here for the shelving. It isn't really that prominent in anything we do. I'm sitting in front of it, so you can't really see it. But this is just sort of adds a little more character and could be, nice alternate shots if we did something at different angles in the set. So that was just there to sort of show you that. Let me see. So we may have a few more comments here. I just want to jump to that. So Bill Ashton is saying, do you remember the name of the paint? Yes, it is. So in the U.S., so we have a DIY store called Home Depot. So it is a Behr, B-E-H-R paint, and it's called Falcon Gray, matte color, matte finish, Falcon Gray. So that's the paint we use, and that definitely gives a very nice look. But if you're not near a Home Depot or you live in a region that doesn't have that, look for gray colors for color backdrops. It's like search for that and find paints that search for that for paints, and you'll probably find other people who have done this that can give you a recommendation for a similar color. But we were really happy with this, and our testing with it looked pretty good for that. So so Michael is saying never heard of audio back to the mic. That's why this is sort of thought of as the baby brother of the SM7Bs. The biggest thing I think is the SM7B is probably much better for musicians. What people have told me, since I'm not using it in that way, is that musically, the range of the SM7B is better than the MV7, and that gives you a smoother vocals for singers. But for the spoken voice, trust me, I'm not going to be singing here on this show. For the spoken voice, most of the people that I asked about this, they say it is pretty much comparable to the SM7B, and it has a lot of flexibility built into it as a unit. And we thought that was great. So this is the choice we made for the mics here on set. So Bill, yeah, the Move 4K. I'm going to be doing another video on this because we're talking about sort of the 3D and some of the stuff we've been doing with that. If you look on the Streaming Alchemy site, I did a full video about the Move 4K. It's actually, I think a great camera in that price range, and it does things that like the 3D that you need to spend probably 3 times the price of that camera to to get that. And it comes in sort of a 12x, 20x, and 30x. So it, you can sort of move this down into different price points, and they all functionally have the same, just different optics for that. So look on the Streaming Alchemy site. We do have a fairly detailed Move 4K video that we did, sort of going over it, comparing it, giving a sort of a detailed overview. So hopefully that's it. And also, please feel free to reach out to me. You can just, DM me on Facebook if you need, and, you'll happy to talk to you about it, one-on-one. So no issues there. So Griswold, thank you. Yeah, I mean, 3D is really cool. I mean, it's working in Unreal in that whole space is it's got its own set of complications, and getting everything lined up and dialed in is not trivial. But I think it opens up some really cool possibilities, both for virtual sets as well as augmented reality. So, if I could take and put something up right in front of me in, sort of a 3D model here that I could spin and rotate, but sitting in front of me, and it would track with the camera. If the camera pulled out or came in, that would stay fixed in space, and you'd be able to get that. Those types of things are really cool. And that's something that 3D and Unreal Engine do open up as an opportunity. So more to come on that. We're sort of early stages with what we're doing, but we definitely think it's pretty cool. So thanks, Griswold. NDI webcam. Michael's just saying, yeah, put that in the show notes. I'm not actually sure if is actually still made by PTZ Optics, but I'll see if the link is there. But yep, I'll put that in the notes as well. Thanks, Michael. So, Mohammed, thank you for joining us. Glad you could make the time here on a Friday. Definitely appreciate it. So, yep, Falcon Gray. So, thanks, Bill. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that, so Michael's saying 18% gray color for the wall. Yeah, one of the things that you need to make sure is that it is sort of a pure gray. So there are like these grays, like steel gray, which have blue in them and other things. So they won't work as well as things that are sort of pure gray tint. So I'm not exactly sure of the full composition, but yeah, it is something which is based on sort of a solid gray base and not having these other tones to add sort of a character to it, a brownish or bluish, none of those things, warm gray, those types. So this is pure gray. And that's basically what we went against here. So quite welcome, Bill. Thank you. So Grizzlo's saying he's thinking AR in a gym or during basketball streams. Yeah, I mean, there's some really cool things you can do with that. I mean, you got like banners and the Jumbotron and all that, but this to a certain extent will give you some virtualization for that. I mean, it's something you could put, behind, to the side of where a camera is shooting, and then have that there all the time. And you can do it for ad insertion or things like that. So even if the camera moves, when it sweeps back, you'd still see that ad insert there. So there's lots of cool stuff you can do with those types of things. AR is got a lot of possibilities. Definitely excited about it. And I think it's, and the reason I mentioned ad insertion is that for a lot of us, if you're thinking about monetizing, having something that would give you a level up in terms of product placement or ad placement could be really valuable and increase your value to potential sponsors. So that's part of what we're thinking as we're looking at this. But yeah, really cool stuff you can do with AR and 3D, sort of that camera tracking. So Michael is saying, how would you mount the green screen? So there's a couple of ways. One of them is because we have walls side to side. I could just do it with a pole and just attach the pole and just hang it down and then remove the pole. I also have a floor stand for a green screen that could work over here. And because everything's on wheels, just moving stuff out of here is, I could do it now in, 5 minutes and then set up a green screen here as a full backdrop. But it could be set up against this wall, which would be an easy hang. I could just put hooks across the top and hang it. So I do have a sort of a Matthews green screen that we sort of measured out for that. Could do that over there, or we could do a full green screen back wall as well if we wanted to. And we have green screens we could use for that as well. So we have sort of like a 13-foot green screen. I think it's from Manfrotto. I'm not sure. I think they sold the brand or something. We've had it for a few years. But so that's another option that gives us a few green screen mount possibilities. All right. So to wrap this up, let me just, we took a few test shots. I wanted to give, sort of a sense of how, when we were evaluating how the set was looking. Just some of the shots we use. These are really nothing technical, but we have a few of them. So this is sort of just an angle shot from this side coming into the set. So again, these are things when we're sort of saying, where could we potentially take shots and make those work? So that was one shot that we had there. So this is sort of a straight on shot. And this was us thinking about how we took this shot originally to try to figure out how would the set show up on camera with the lighting. So this was more, I just took this with the iPhone, but we've done the same testing with the actual cameras that we're doing to make sure all that stuff showed through, and the lighting and the colors in the lighting didn't distract from on screen. And that all looked pretty good to us. You can see we're still doing final setup here with stuff. This was sort of for framing the shots. We were looking at what we could do and what would be needed to sort of get that alignment and getting the camera set up. So again, just another lightweight shot there. This was looking at how the lighting would shine onto the upper shelf and wash on the wall. And again, this is just sort of validating that the lights in the back would work for what we wanted. And this was just sort of from the camera. This was me sort of sitting in there as how would this all look? How does the monitor look behind me? And, how does this fit in the frame? So this was sort of the shots that we took as we were sort of going through what we wanted to do. So that was just a few quick photos that we took as we were pulling this together to get a sense of how the set was working. Because, as you assemble, you have some ability to make easy adjustments. And then once you're sort of all bolted and you position the lights and everything, it just takes, a little more effort. But this was our first, pass at this. So, clearly we know, we want to do a little bit more with the lighting to get it set up exactly the way we'd like. But we think, this was a good start, certainly good enough to get started with our, the set rebuild and to share it with you guys. But so hopefully you all found this worthwhile and something I know we really hadn't done a studio tour in the past. So hopefully this will give you a good sense of how we've set everything up and how that now translates on camera for some of the stuff we're doing. So what I'd like to do, we will be, kicking off season 5. So we probably have a few more weeks to go before we're ready with season 5, and that will be our first show of the new season. But, we are now sort of loaded and ready to go here with what we need to do, physically with the set. So that's good. So what I'm going to do is we will have a show in 2 or 3 more weeks as we get everything finalized for the next season. But if you can, hang around for the post show and we'll go over, any other questions you have there. I know there are a few more comments coming in here, and, I'll be happy to dig into all of those right as we start the post show. If you can't, we will see you in a few weeks for the new season. But if you can, we'll see you in a moment. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching through this. I know it was a bit of a long show here. All right, welcome to the post show, everyone. Thank you for dealing with a show that is this long. I know it's asking a lot for you to take out of your day, but let's get to some of the questions that were still out there. So Mike was asking, how would you light a green screen with the little space that you have? So the biggest thing that I have, if I wanted to light it, the way I would probably do that is because I could put a green screen here on this side in the smaller space. What I'd probably do is have a large, because I could move everything in front here and have a larger light with a bigger diffuser, because I do have bigger diffusers, even though this doesn't fit here for what I want. I would light that from the side, and I do have sort of like a silver reflector that I'd put on this side, so it would take the light and bounce it off of this side to try to create a more even. Now, clearly this would be a hot side and a not hot side, but I'd have to just deal with that, in software to get the key. And then I would just, light the talent, because I do have the key light over here, so I could use that to light the talent with a secondary light over here. And do the talent lighting that way and keep the separation between the green screen and the talent for that. So that would probably be the first way. If I were to have the green screen running across behind me, I do have more angles to put the lighting in on the side and then keep the lighting here. So I do have that. And I mentioned the sort of the box lights that we have, the 3120s. They are perfect for this type of thing where I could just put them on the side and get a nice broad light coming in from two directions and, not have any hot spots. And I do have the outward distance that way because I can go to the outside of the poles to do the lighting, and that would work really well for what we wanted. So that's how we were thinking, in terms of doing it. Because I don't have a solid wall here. I just have these poles, and then we have like office space on the other side of these poles, but I have to work within the poles and where the desk is for the current lighting for the live show. So that's the biggest constraint. Oh, so thank you. Michael's just, saying he appreciates the sharing what we were doing with the studio. And, I definitely appreciate everybody watching. I know we went through other people's studios and some of the things they had and what they were trying to do. So, we were certainly influenced by, some of the thought processes that went into other people doing this, and hopefully sharing some of ours and our approach will help some of you. But it's a process, and when you think you have it right, then you're like, oh, I'm going to change this a little bit or do something different. So we'll see. But, we're pretty happy with this. I think this is going to take us a long way. So thanks, Michael. William, thank you. I appreciate taking the time to watch it. So great to have you here. Thank you. So Bill is saying he'll keep this as a reference. So we're looking forward to season 5 as well. So we're gonna sort of spread our wings a little bit. We are gonna continue to cover what we've covered with all the stuff in vMix, scripting and automation. We're going to be adding a lot more around TriCaster and some of that, because we've had a lot of people that I've worked with in the past that have been asking me to do that. So I want to try and introduce more TriCaster focused shows as well. And we're going to be looking at, if we can do some stuff with Unreal Engine and get that to work here. That's also sort of sitting sort of in the margin notes for season 5. Hopefully we'll be able to do something with that as well. So, Bill, Happy New Year to you. Thank you. So I just touched on some of that. So that's basically what as I mentioned, we're going to spread out and do a few more things. But we're definitely interested in what is it that all of you are looking to cover as well. Because I know at a certain point we've sort of done an awful lot of topics in vMix. So we don't just want to become redundant, sort of just rehash stuff. So we're always looking to extend things. So, as I mentioned, the things I already mentioned, but definitely looking at what other types of automation tools would be useful to you. What are the types of production things? Are you doing multi-camera work? Would you like us to cover more about doing different things multi-camera, different things with lighting? So we talked about how we set this up, but are there other things there? Audio things, topics around that. These are more general topics that apply to vMix or TriCast or whatever production set you're using. So definitely interested in that. Also, what about pre and post-production tools? Are you interested in more stuff using Photoshop and how we do that, or things using DaVinci Resolve and how we use that? And AI is the other thing. So, clearly I've seen some incredible stuff in the AI space, but so happy to share that as well. So put it out there. Let us know. So Michael's asking, he'd like to know how we plan a product review show. Yeah, that's always good. So that's definitely something that I can go into, because we have some things like philosophically, like, if we don't think a product is any good, I'm just not going to put a bad review out, so that doesn't matter. I wouldn't review something if I didn't think it had a fit in the market and the people that, would potentially be interested in it. But outside of that, I definitely would be, happy to go through sort of our process for lining up what we do, what we test, how we script, how we do the production. Happy to do that, Michael. So Bill's mentioning that he's interested in run of show tools, tips and hits maybe. So I can do what I can with that. I'll be honest, and this is outside of what we do here with, the Streaming Alchemy show and, shows we do around, our products or, reviews things. We don't do all the live shows. So I would probably try to tap into my network of people to see maybe I could get somebody on specifically to talk about some of the show running tools that are out there for how they do it, how it ties in with their automation, other things. Because I'd want to make sure that I didn't just give you sort of an amateur's perspective, since I'm not using those. But definitely another good topic, Bill. Thank you. So William is saying, one thing I would like to explore is portable setups for live streaming. We do a local sunrise service on Easter, but it's a big production and a lot of gear to move. That is something I could definitely talk to you about. And there are different approaches to this. A lot of it depends on connectivity. So what you can do and what you can't do. Do you need to stream at a high rate? Do you need to bring in external sources? How many cameras? But yeah, definitely happy to share my thoughts on that. See if we can put something together as a show around that. These are all fantastic ideas, guys. Thank you. Definitely appreciate it. I'll just sort of touch on it, but we are looking to do a new product launch which will involve working with some stuff with Zoom, as well as our current LiveToAirZ product lineup. So I don't want to share too much. So we still need approval for the product. So we're going to be submitting that, and that will be reviewed for approval. So that will be something we're doing. But that is coming up, and hopefully we'll be able to do a complete launch announcement on that pretty soon and go through the details of what's inside it. So Bill is saying, as a vMix exclusive user, everything Streaming Alchemy shows builds upon itself and always fresh and never redundant. Well, I appreciate that, Bill. But, I want to, I definitely worry about being sort of fair with everybody. I don't just want to sort of dig up old shows and rehash them. So hopefully, even if the show we do isn't directly about vMix, there's something in there at a more general production level that people will find useful. So thank you, Bill. I really do appreciate that. All right. So I know this has been an incredibly long show. So thank you, everybody, for your patience and sitting through this. I really enjoyed, getting to share all this with you. There was a lot of work that went into this by quite a number of people, with doing all this, and we're never really finished. You're just sort of always closer to refined, but never quite there. So, with the asymptotic work of getting things to where you want them to be, this was a big step for us. So happy about that. But thank you all, and Michael, thank you. I learn as much from talking with all of you every show, and are so appreciative of that. So thanks, Michael. So, Bill, thank you. So it is great to be back, and we want to get into more regular rhythms. So probably like an every other week thing, and we'll get going from there. But as I said, thank you all, and we will be back probably in 2 to 3 weeks with the kickoff of season 5. And until then, be safe, be well. Take care, everyone.